Jason Stevens, he is a very arrogant, lonely, and irresponsible young man who does not know how to value money, since everything he wants is achieved without effort. In Texas he meets Emily Rose, a charming girl who radiates happiness. She has a secret with which she may be able to make Jason change. Sometime before he meets Emily, Jason's grandfather, a billionaire man, dies. On the day of the funeral, the grandfather's children, instead of being sad, were rather happy and anxious that the day of the distribution of the inheritance would arrive. There, the children of the deceased argue with the lawyer because each one wants most of the inheritance. However, in the will it only indicates that they should be given something insignificant for them, so they leave very angry.
What's that worth anyway?
Jason, I didn't expect to receive anything, but he was there, because he was pressured by the attorney in charge, Mr. Hamilton, who makes him watch a video of his grandfather saying that he must complete a series of challenges guided by him to obtain his inheritance.
Having a better day than I am.
Failing one, he will get nothing, but if he succeeds, he will get the greatest gift. After that, he gives him a device where he can listen to each step to follow. He, despite not wanting anything, because he blames his grandfather for the death of his father, is very curious and accepts the challenge. So upon hearing the first challenge from him, he travels to Texas to fulfill it. When he arrives, he meets Gus, and as expected, Jason doesn't greet him, he just asks about the gift. Gus laughs and takes him to his ranch, where he puts him to work very hard.
Come on, man!
Which he has never done, to work for something in his life. He was very rude at the beginning, but as time went by he dedicated himself to doing things better, performing very well, thus fulfilling the first challenge and obtaining the first gift from him, the love of work. Despite having obtained something that will be very useful for the rest of his life, he is not happy, since he only expected something material, so he goes to complain to the lawyer and tell him that he does not want to continue, without knowing the consequences of what awaits you when you leave the challenge. Returning to his house, he found it empty. Very confused and without understanding what is happening to him, he is looking for his car, which is no longer there. As if that were not enough, he goes out to eat with his girlfriend at a restaurant, but is surprised that his card is without funds, which annoyed his girlfriend and she ends up leaving him. He reaches the limit and goes looking for Hamilton, who shows him another video of his grandfather. He lets him know that sometimes you have to lose everything to learn to live. Besides, with money we will always have friends until it runs out. Hamilton then tells her that the second challenge is to bring a true friend into the house. Jason, having nowhere to go, and realizing that he no longer had friends, went to the park to sleep on a bench. There he argues with a homeless man on the bench, and to decide they ask to flip a coin, but neither of them had one. There a charming girl appears giving them the coin, but in the end the homeless man steals it. After several weeks sleeping in the park, he sees that the homeless man appears and tries to rob some girls. That's where he met Emily and her mother. Jason, regardless of the girl's affection for him, sees her as the perfect candidate to complete the challenge, so he tells her of his plan to pretend to be her friend, and the girl accepts in return that he will offer her a true friendship. Soon, Jason takes Emily and her mother to her grandfather's house, where Hamilton, at first doubts their friendship, but Emily speaks with such certainty that she was convinced of her friendship with Jason, culminating in her second gift, the value of true friendship. So Hamilton gives Jason an envelope and he happily opens it expecting a giant inheritance, but only received $1,500, which was payment for his work on the ranch. After that, he doesn't keep his promise and forgets about Emily. Not caring about her luck, he leaves her sad and disappointed to continue with the next challenge. This third challenge consists of using $1,000 from what Hamilton gave him, so that he spends it with whoever needs it the most, since when he had money he squandered it on trivialities. He finds himself disoriented, not knowing what to do with the money, so he decides to give a few bills to the homeless man who has been bothering him, but when he approaches him, he runs off leaving a wallet that belongs to Emily's mother, where he finds several receipts with hospital debts, so he decides to go to the hospital in search of them. Upon arrival, he finds out that Emily is seriously ill with leukemia and is refusing a bone marrow transplant. Jason, for the first time in his life, feels great compassion for what moves the deepest fibers of his soul, and he decides to invest the money in paying off the debt that Alexia has for the expenses of her daughter's illness. Even though she did not want to, in the end he agreed. Jason had fulfilled his third challenge, having already obtained 3 gifts: work, friends, and the value of money. So, she watches the video of her grandfather, where he tells Jason that he must discover the 4th gift, which is the family gift. He, puzzled and somewhat tired, wonders what he is playing at. After that, he invites Emily's mom to Thanksgiving dinner, but it didn't work out, since all her relatives were doing was arguing over the inheritance. At that moment, he was able to understand that the family should selflessly support each other and not compete for their own benefits. Days later, he travels to the place where his father died for the final challenge. When he arrives, he is staying in a very simple and remote village, where the only wealth was knowledge. There his grandfather created the library project and made many donations. Upon entering the library, he finds it without books, and the administrator thanks him for her grandfather's project, since many children learn to read and write through it. Even though Jason did not want to be there, little by little he begins to immerse himself in the customs of the place, and by meeting the people, he realizes that happiness is not given by money. One night he feels extremely moved when a friend of his grandfather shows him some letters that she had kept from him when he was a child, and when he wrote letters to his grandfather, where he told him that he missed him as much as his father, and that he would like to go on one of his trips, but then came the great tragedy. When a friend arrives, Jason asks him to take him to the area where his father's accident occurred, but the man replies that this area is very dangerous. Despite that, he still went there, and upon reaching the mountain, he finds the remains of a plane. It is then that Jason finds out that his grandfather had nothing to do with his father's death, that his own father had been reckless in taking a plane that he did not know to flee the place, so he admits that he lost many years of his life plunged into rancor and unnecessary hatred. At that moment they are ambushed by some soldiers and are locked in prisoner cells, where they spend a lot of time kidnapped. There, the friend gives him a letter from his grandfather, telling him how much he loved him and remembered him, so it is at that moment that Jason really realizes the value of family. The worst was yet to come, since the armed group took him out of his cell and placed him in front of a bonfire where he was sentenced to death. At that moment, they started shooting, and he thought they had killed his cellmates, but it turned out that the kidnappers were just celebrating Christmas. Locking him up again, he felt powerless to be imprisoned helplessly, since he had promised Emily that he would be with them for the holidays. So in his eagerness to get out of there, he realizes that the keys are within his reach, and everyone was drunk, so he takes the opportunity to escape and rescue his friend. There Jason understood the value of life and freedom. Upon arriving at the airport, Alexia is there waiting for him after living through so many days of anguish. They immediately go to the hospital to see Emily, where she convalescing asks him to finish spending Christmas together and go horseback riding. Jason takes Emily and Alexia to Gus's ranch in Hamilton's loaned private plane, where they are greeted with spectacular Christmas decorations and lighting. The next day, Jason pleases Emily with the horseback ride that she wanted so much, and when he gets off the horse and having Alexia so close, he can't resist anymore and gives her a kiss, to which she didn't resist. That's where Jason finally knew what true love was. Emily, seeing them, is filled with joy since her dream was coming true, and so when it is time to leave, she will leave calm and happy, because she knows that thanks to Jason, her mother will not be alone when I'm gone. While sharing at the ranch, Jason watches the final video of his grandfather where he tells him that the final test is to fulfill and follow his dream. Since he doesn't have any dreams, he asks Emily, who tells him that her dream was to be with the people she loves, and for them to love her back. She tells him that it doesn't matter if he doesn't have dreams, because if he fulfilled hers, that should count. After that, Jason went to a meeting with Hamilton, and with many witnesses present, he acknowledges that he had been living a superficial and selfish life, but now his dream is to fulfill the dreams of others. So the lawyer gives him $100 million so that he can carry out the project of helping people in their hospitalization and treatment for cancer. Days after, while working for the project, Jason and Alexia run off when they receive a call from the hospital, where they are informed that Emily has passed away. At that moment they feel desperate and powerless to not be able to overcome this situation and get ahead. A long time later, Jason's project, called Emily's House, is inaugurated in honor of the girl who, despite knowing that she was going to lose her life, maintained a brave attitude in her life, and although sadly she is no longer, his story is the engine of this foundation, which will help change the lives of thousands and thousands of children with cancer. As Jason kept his word, and his heart was truly transformed, Mr. Hamilton surprises him with a last message from his grandfather, where they unite in a mutual feeling to forgive each other and express their love. Also, when he least expected it, Hamilton, as executor of his grandfather's legacy, gives him his last gift, to hand over and assign full and complete control of all grandfather's assets to him, in the amount of $2 billion. Jason is surprised and overwhelmed, but this did not change his way of thinking at all, since he had understood through all the challenges, the true value of the important things in life and how to live. This is the summary of a Christian movie called The Ultimate Gift. Click here and don't miss the following story.